Your fertility journey deserves clarity. And if you have to pursue IVF or other assisted reproductive technology, there can be a lot of hidden costs that you may not have been aware of. Join me this week as I sit down once again with Lakia Holmes as she spills the tea around IVF, the hidden costs associated with it, and how you can plan for it so that it can be possible for you and your family. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am excited to sit down once again with Lakia Holmes. Welcome back to the show, Lakia.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
So Lakia is my bestie now, and I just want to have her back for all the episodes. So her journey was such an important one, and there were so many facets of it that I thought would be really helpful for the audience to know, speak to people who maybe have been to this process, have started this process, are thinking about this process, and just don't know where to go for resources. That I wanted to break it up into 3 deeper dive episodes rather than doing it kind of surface level with just one, because IVF is a really big topic. And today we're actually going to talk about the really big expense that's associated with it. And Lakia graciously, gracefully, all of these things, has offered to share her journey yet again, but looking at it this time from how cost prohibitive this process can be. We alluded to it a little bit on the second of our 3 episodes. So if you have not had a chance to go back and listen to that episode, I would highly recommend it. The first part of our conversation was about her journey to bring her beautiful little girl into the world. The second one, we talked about her challenges around finding a Black sperm donor to be her baby's dad. And then this one is about the cost challenges, the financial challenges, and really some of the roadblocks that keep people and make it hard for people to be able to pursue their desire to become a parent.
Yeah. Which is crazy that in 2025, this is still an issue.
Yes, I agree. And it, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you are on Reproductive Rebel, so here we go. It's almost like the system makes it that only certain people can have babies.
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure. It's crazy how the system can truly work against you. I'm kind of lucky that the system, I guess, is on my side, but I feel for so many who are not in the same position. And it breaks my heart that people are feeling this pressure to go into debt, to go into mounds of debt in order to build their family. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have had clients through my practice who have thrown out some astronomical numbers. Like, oh, I'm so glad that we were able to come up with the $62K that it required to be able to get this little guy, because mom and dad both needed support in order to be able to get pregnant. And like the donor egg alone was crazy expensive. And they are grateful to have a happy, healthy little boy, but they had to spend a lot of money. And I've seen people take out second mortgages on their house. Like, the heart wants what the heart wants. And when it doesn't go smooth the first time, or you go through an egg retrieval and you might end up with only one viable egg, you have to go through the process again. And so, if you would like to talk a little bit, like kind of from the beginning, I know that we've talked in past episodes around the fact that you were really fortunate your company had health benefits around IVF. So, maybe we should probably start there.
Yeah. So I work for a pretty large company. So I work for Warner Brothers Discovery. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the brand. So it's a huge media company. So we have fertility coverage through Progeny, which is one of the biggest, and I feel like one of the pioneers in fertility coverage. They've been around now for probably about over 10 years or so. So when I first started at my company, I was a freelance temp producer. So I didn't have health benefits. After about a year or so at the company, probably about a year and a half at the company, I became full time. So I was able to then get full benefits, medical, dental, vision, and fertility coverage. So at that point in 2020, I wasn't trying to get pregnant. It was like, if it happens, sort of thing. But I also knew that I was 37 and that time was not exactly on my side. So, like we talked about in our first conversation, I went to the doctor just looking to get information about freezing eggs because I had the fertility coverage. So, egg freezing was part of the plan. And so, had I not become full time at my company, I would not have even had the thought to go and start looking into the process. And so it was through that that I discovered what my benefits package offered in terms of IVF, egg freezing, cryopreservation, and all of that is working alongside my standard health coverage through Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. And also through my fertility coverage, also covered the cost of medication. So when I went in, just looking at going into doing the egg freezing, and then found out that I would have to do IVF, it opened up this huge can of worms because now we're talking about more of an involved process that's probably going to take a little bit longer, a little bit more intense. And so now the cost is now greater. And there were some nuances within my benefits package that kind of affected how I looked at planning out financially, how I go about the process. So it was a really eye-opening experience going from that first egg retrieval in 2021, knowing that with that first retrieval, I wasn't going to be making embryos. So the cost for that was a little bit different because, again, there were some nuances within the way my plan was set up compared to egg retrievals 2 and 3, where then I was making embryos and kind of shifted what was covered, what's not covered, and things of that nature. So it was really a learning lesson for me into really getting down to the nitty gritty of my benefits package, knowing what's covered, what's not covered, looking at my health plan in a greater scale, because I've had conversations with people and you're having money deducted from your paycheck. And for a lot of people, they see the different plans. You have like your gold, your silver, your bronze, or however it's kind of set up. And people are like, well, I am going to take the lowest package possible because I don't want them to take a bunch of money out of my paycheck. And it's understandable, but it's also probably not the smartest idea because you don't know what you're going to come up against down the line. And especially with something like infertility, you're finding out on a whim, I guess, that you're suffering with infertility or whatever. So I'm not going in planning on having to go through IVF necessarily. So now I'm kind of stuck with this kind of like sticker shock. So you kind of have to be proactive and thinking long term about your future plans because that's going to affect how you look at when it's time for your annual enrollment, how you set up and structure your benefits package. And that was something that I had to learn in the moment as I was going through the process.
Yeah, there's a lot of Jenga. I have worked with clients as they're going through their IVF journey and supporting keeping their body as much in balance as possible to offset some of the side effects of the medication. So when they go to do their transfers, they have more success and that type of thing. And they've talked to me about that too. It's like, oh, well, annual enrollment is coming. I know that I have to have this and this done. So I need to make sure that I'm making these decisions before this date and so on and so forth. And conception is already like hard enough on its own. It's hard
Right.
enough on its own. And stress does not help people to get pregnant. So now let's add this other layer of financial strain, which hits your scarcity, safety, and security buttons while you're looking at all of these price tags and everything. And it's like the perfect equation to like keep you coming back through the system, at least from
Yes.
my perspective, because you're looking at financial safety and security, right? You're talking about whether this is going to work or not. And I know that when my husband and I started having issues, we started looking in depth at our coverage benefits, and they covered 3 rounds of IVF for the life of the plan.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit. No pressure. That means that this has to work. Like,
Yeah.
first try if going to have siblings.
Right.
And like, all of a sudden, like, I started to panic. And I'm like, I know that I can't do this. I can't. I'm not going to get pregnant like this because I'm going to be so stressed out that it's not going to work the first time. It's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. It's great. So when I did my first retrieval, so this was back October 2021, I started seeing the doctor, I think it was like July, late July, early August 2021. And like I said in our previous conversations, I made the decision, okay, I was going to become a single parent by choice, but I wasn't quite ready to make embryos yet. I hadn't found a donor. So perfect example of kind of talking about some of the stress. So the way my benefits package is set up at my employer, because I wasn't making embryos, they weren't going to cover the cost of like the actual retrieval procedure. So like the medications were covered, the visits were covered, but the actual procedure itself wasn't covered. However, because of that little kind of like nuance with the benefits package, my company offered cryopreservation reimbursement. So now the cost of the procedure was $8,600.
Wow.
Now our company's cryopreservation reimbursement is $14,000 for the lifetime, like what you just said, for the lifetime of the plan. So now I still need to pay that $8,600 up front, then submit for reimbursement. And then here's where the system kind of comes into play. So I submit for reimbursement, but now they consider that taxable income. So now I'm not getting back the full $8,600. They're taking taxes from that. So you have to be able to plan for, okay, something might not be covered by insurance. So I need to make sure I have enough money in the bank to pay for it. And of course, you're paying with like a credit card or something. Like,
Right.
so I need to be able to make sure I have enough money up front to pay for it, knowing that I'm not going to get all of my money in the back end when I submit for reimbursement. Oh, and while all of this is happening, a hurricane came, Hurricane Ida, in September 2021, completely flooded the parking lot of my building and destroyed my brand new car. So, and now I need a car to be able to get to and from all of my appointments. So now I'm coming out of pocket for a brand new car.
Oh,
So I'm dealing with the stress of that, the stress of trying to figure out how to kind of navigate my financials to come up with the 8,600 to pay for the procedure. I'm already paying my copay and my co-insurance and my deductible for all of the visits and stuff that I've already started and the blood work and all that stuff. I was stressed the fuck out. Okay. I was stressed. I was like, this is the worst possible time to have a freaking hurricane come. 6 feet of water, my brand new car, 2021, hadn't even had it a whole 6 months.
Oh,
And
no.
so it's like the worst financial timing ever. And we're still early pandemic. Prices of things are like sky high. So I had to buy a new car, had to overpay for the car. Now I'm paying more money per month for a car. So that's taking money away my fertility treatments. And so it's that stress, that never ending stress that just, it's like adding insult to injury because it's like one more thing I have to think about, one more thing I need to spend money on right now when really I need to have as much cash flow on hand as possible to help cover these treatments because the medications, thank God my medications were covered, but the price tags for some of those medications
Are crazy.
out of pocket, insane. But luckily through like my Blue Cross Blue Shield working alongside my fertility coverage, I was just paying kind of like the co-payments on that. But that first retrieval was hella stressful on me because I'm like, oh, this is such a huge financial hit right off the bat because I'm not making embryos yet. And at that point, I hadn't taken out FSA. So I didn't have FSA dollars to help offset some of those costs. So it's like you're kind of having to do this like logistical gymnastics when it comes to the planning and the preparation for treatments. And it's like, it just adds another layer of stress to what's already a stressful enough time.
Absolutely. No wonder you took 22 off.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
A lot all at once.
Yeah. That's honestly one factor in why I had taken 2022 off because I just needed to just recover.
Yeah.
Needed to recover some financially. When I said I did my first retrieval October 2021, a few weeks later was open enrollment for 2022. So now I'm going into it like, okay, now I know I need to have pre-tax dollars set aside for FSA. I had always been the type of person that always picked the highest tier plan because in my mind, it's like, yeah, you're taking a little bit more money out of my bank account, but my deductible is going to be lower. My co-insurance is going to be lower. My out-of-pocket cost max for the year is going to be lower. So knowing that 2022, and at this time I was like, okay, well, 2022, I'm going to go hard. And so it was like, let me prepare now during open enrollment for that. But by the time 2022 rolled around, I was like, I'm tired. I'm stressed out. I need to just kind of like reset mentally, physically, and financially. And so, yeah, that was a huge factor in why I took 1 year off. to just, again, just kind of have that like reset.
Now, do you have to use all of your FSA dollars at the end, but like by the end of the calendar year, or were you able to
Yes.
use, oh, you did.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not
So
like you had
we
that account.
no, so we don't have rollover. We don't, our FSA dollars don't roll over like some companies offer. Ours doesn't. So it's like use it or lose it by the end of the year. And I'm the type of person, I'm very type A. So I'm always asking all the questions. Like I'm on the phone with my insurance provider. I'm on the phone with Progeny. I'm on the phone with all these different people, just trying to get a sense of what the costs will be. And also at that time, our company was undergoing a merger. So
Oh,
at that
yeah,
point in
that's right.
2021, it was just Warner Media. And then Discovery came in and purchased. So now in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, how is this going to change our benefits package?
Mhm.
Because Discovery, they have their own benefits. Warner Media has their benefits. What's going to cancel out?
Yeah.
What are the differences between the two companies and how is that going to come together? So I remember like when the merger finally went through and was finalized in 2022, I called my HR rep and I was like, hey, so do you have like any insight on how this is going to affect our insurance?
Mhm.
Because again, I needed to know what was ahead of me so that way I could plan accordingly.
Yep.
So luckily their discoveries benefits were relatively similar to ours on the Warner Media side. So there wasn't too much of a change. But it was like, okay, so now I'm going to take out the max that I can for my FSA. I'm going to go for the highest tier premium plan. So that way, again, I can have that lower out of pocket max for the year. I'm going to take advantage of the cryopreservation reimbursement. So again, that $14,000 maximum. So that covered the cost of the first egg retrieval, but I can also use it to cover the storage costs for like my eggs and my embryos. It won't cover the storage costs for the sperm that I still haven't used. It'll help cover the cost of shipping. It helps cover the cost of shipping the sperm from the sperm bank to my clinic. So it's like you really need to be detailed and really looking at your coverage because you really have to be smart. And it's like these are things that you're paying into anyway. So it's like trying to take as much advantage as possible and really knowing your plan inside out because, like what you said before, oh, it only covers like 3 cycles. Well, what if you need 4, 5, or 6 cycles to achieve a successful pregnancy?
Yeah.
So then it's like knowing what's covered, what's not covered, but also what the limits are. It's crucial in really helping you map out and navigate how you approach family building.
Oh, that's a really good way to word that too, because I read it in my plan, the way that it was worded, is it sounded like I had 3 attempts at IVF, but I had 3 attempts, like with IUI, for example. And I found out after 2 attempts of IUI that both failed that it was 3 fertility support treatments for the entire life of the plan. And it
Mm,
wasn't until I got through the second IUI, which those are fairly affordable. Like if you
yes.
look at fertility treatments and the cost of fertility treatments in the grand scheme of things, had my husband and I realized that, we would have paid the IUI out of pocket and saved the 3 IVF for a
Hmm.
rainy day, right? And not knowing that those 3 fertility treatments, it didn't matter whether it was IUI or IVF, you had 3 attempts
Yeah.
with anything for the
Yeah.
entire life of the plan. And after 2 failed IUIs, we got to that third one. And I just looked at my husband and I was like, oh my God, like this isn't even like we would have to get lucky the first try. I don't think I can conceive under that kind of pressure. And we went a little bit further along with our results weren't really yielding like why we were having trouble conceiving. We had plenty of labs and genetic testing and everything else done. There was nothing wrong with me structurally. His numbers were good. There was no reason that we shouldn't have been able to conceive naturally. And we were conceiving, we just weren't carrying to term. But when we realized like our insurance benefits were like, this is it, I said, you know what? I would much rather do the work and try to conceive naturally because I had no idea. And so when I talked to the plan provider, they were like, well, we have made exceptions in some cases. And I said, but that's great. And I'm glad that you have a heart. However, like, how do I know if I'm going to get approved? Well, it's on a case by case basis. And I'm like, cool. So, in other words, I could go through all of the drugs and all of the testing and all the things, and we could end up having our first transfer fail. And now I'm at the whim of a group of several people looking at my case to decide if I get another attempt. Oof, I don't know if my heart can handle that.
And it sucks that it's that way
It does.
because your future family is now in the hands of this insurance company. And that's wild to me that we're kind of at their mercy. It's like, yeah, yeah. Oh, a case by case basis. Well, every case is serious. Like every case matters.
Right.
It's like, what makes one family's journey different from another? There are different circumstances. And to that point, when you look at states and the fact that all 50 states do not offer some sort of fertility coverage boggles my mind. But you have to, when we're talking about case by case basis, states that do offer coverage, well, so case in point, perfect example. I was diagnosed with infertility. My fallopian tubes were blocked. Chances of getting pregnant naturally 2%, next to none. So that I qualify. But what if my fallopian tubes weren't blocked, but I still wanted to go through and become a single mom by choice? In some places, some states, or perhaps even some employers, well, you don't necessarily have a medical need, quote unquote, so it's potentially not covered. So there's a lot of gray area that's now being left for someone else to interpret. And it's like, yeah, okay, but I still want to have a child. I still want to build my family, and this is the way I'm choosing to go about it. So why, why is it okay for some? So it becomes a very slippery slope. And again, adding to that stress and that pressure that is not necessary at a time like this. And so it's like I've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of people at my company who didn't even know that we had fertility benefits.
Wow.
Yeah. So like they didn't know we had fertility benefits. And so I'm now essentially doing the job of HR, and I'm like explaining to them what's covered, what's not covered, how it works, all these things. And I've had coworkers go and be like, oh, okay, well, now we're going to go and investigate. And so it just frustrates me, the barriers that are up, because either you don't have coverage, you have inadequate coverage, or you just don't even know that you have coverage. And it's like that HR should be shouting from the mountaintops, like, this is what we are offering. And But again, it's that educational aspect, that piece of just educating, just making people aware, because they don't know until they're in it, until you're down in the trenches. And it's like, no, like these are things you should know and kind of be aware of beforehand in case you need it down the line. So that way, at least you're better prepared.
Yeah. Well, speaking of prepared, in our last episode, one of the things that surprised the hell out of me, because I haven't had anyone talk about this in my practice, you were talking about when you found your donor and they were perfect, and there were different costs associated with different donors, and that none of that is covered by insurance. You have to pay for that out of pocket. That totally floored me. So, for anyone who hasn't had a chance to catch episode 2, can you talk a little bit about when you found Isla's donor at the California Cryobank and how that all works?
Yeah.
And now a word from our reproductive rebel sponsor, Embody Space. Your cycle holds wisdom, and the Embody Space cycle tracking app helps you unlock it. Track your cycle in the only fully encrypted app designed to protect your most sacred data. Get daily guidance tailored to every phase, from bleeding to blooming, with rituals, herbs, lifestyle tips, dietary support, and more. All tailored for your body's natural rhythms, because your body's story is yours alone. Embody Space, your private portal to cycle wisdom. Download now and reclaim your rhythm. And now, back to the show.
So, of course, it being a business, when you're connecting with these different sperm banks to look for potential donors, you are presented with options for subscriptions to be able to look at different things regarding your donor's profile. So, of course, the higher tier subscription you get, the more info you're able to access about the donor from. And of course, there are things that are standard with like the lower tier subscription or a free subscription. So you're like getting access to like their medicals and like childhood photos. But if you want like more detailed information, if you want like adult photos, if you want like to hear their audio recordings and stuff, you're paying upwards of maybe like $200-$300 for a higher tier subscription. So there's that. And of course, you're paying for that out of pocket. Insurance will be like, well, no, what the hell? We're not paying for that. What the hell? No. So then when it comes time to pick the donor, you're looking at, okay, whether you need IUI, ICI, IVF, and the donor sperm is going to be prepared in a way that matches the procedure that you need. So I need IVF. IVF vials are typically going to cost a little bit more because they're going to be prepared and stored a different way. So, and then of course, depending on the donor, the sperm pricing per vial is going to be different. Of course, me being the bougie bitch that I am, I picked a very high.
Your donor was perfect.
He was perfect. He was amazing. And that perfection came at a cost because he was expensive. Okay. And then you're paying per vial. So we know that when it comes to IUI, IVF, it's a numbers game because you're often not going to find success with just one vial of sperm and like one egg. You wish it could be that easy, but it's not. So you have to prepare. So my doctor said, we suggest minimum 4 vials because you don't know how many sperm will survive the thaw. You don't know how many eggs will actually fertilize and go to blastocyst. You don't know out of those that go to blastocyst, how many will make it out of genetic testing. Yep. So you're really just, it's honestly a numbers game. So the more sperm and the more eggs you're working with, the better odds you have, right? So I needed at least 4 vials of sperm. So when my donor became available, because I was on the waiting list, they had exactly 4 vials of sperm. So I had to pay out of pocket, had to put that on a credit card. Okay. The sperm alone was over $8,000, almost $9,000 that I had to pay cash for 4 vials of sperm and not knowing if you'll have a viable embryo at the end of it. And if you have a viable embryo, whether that embryo will take. So this is another aspect that you're having to save for because that money is coming straight out of your pocket. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, I'm going to need 4 vials of sperm. If this doesn't work and all of a sudden I'm left with like 1 vial of sperm after X number of egg retrievals and embryo transfers or whatever, it's like, at what point does it make sense financially to continue? Mm-hmm. So these are conversations that you're having to have with yourself. So yeah, so I had to put the cost of the 4 vials of sperm on like 2 credit cards. And luckily I had money in my savings account to help kind of just pay that off right away. But again, it was part of that financial planning aspect and knowing, okay, here are things that I know insurance is not going to cover. So let me be as prepared as possible to know, okay, I need to have this much money socked away. And there were certain procedures and things throughout the course of my journey that I took out loans on my 401k for. Oh. Luckily, I was in a position where I was able to pay it back rather quickly through like having money deducted from my paycheck post-tax to help pay that back and money that I had like in savings. But again, it's like a lot of maneuvering and finagling to figure out how you're going to pay for some of these things. So yeah, so I had to put him on 2 credit cards and pay for the shipping. And like the shipping was like $300 FedEx because it has to be shipped special. You have the tanks that it's in. So that was that cost. And so yeah, so roughly about $9,000 out of pocket just for the sperm.
Yeah, that line item in your story the last time we talked shocked the hell out of me because I hadn't even considered that part. And a lot of people don't. Mm-hmm. I've heard the story from the donor egg side of things because in my practice, like I do work with people who have had like premature ovarian failure and they want to have a baby and they tried their own retrieval and they didn't get enough eggs or their eggs didn't fertilize so that they ended up with even 1 embryo. And it's becoming very common here in the United States that they tell you if you're over 35, you should be considering a donor egg because your eggs are old, which is a joke, but that's an entirely different episode where I could stand on that soapbox and yell for a while. So, you know,
me and my geriatric pregnancy,
right?
My geriatric eggs.
I had a geriatric pregnancy with geriatric eggs, and you might even hear him squawking in the background while I'm doing this recording because he's talking and he's healthy and beautiful and alert and all of these things. So you really are what you eat. But again, that's it's a whole soapbox episode that I could do. So it's a huge business. It's a huge business. And just talking about some of the price tags that you had to encounter on your journey to becoming a parent, like I can't even imagine for people who aren't aware of those costs, which is why I thought this episode would be so helpful and needed for people to like realize that you have to essentially become an insurance agent
Mm,
to know how your plan works and all the ins and outs and the fine print where they can deny coverage because a T wasn't crossed or an I wasn't dotted.
yeah.
And I had one of those kicked back during our journey. And it was, again, it was a huge motivating factor for me not pursuing IVF because I'm like, there's so many hidden costs here. And when I had done IUI, I did medicated rounds of IUI because, again, they looked at my birth date and said, you're geriatric. So we need to
Mm,
force you to ovulate, even though I was ovulating just fine. And then I had an Ovidrel trigger shot. That shot alone was $1,400 out of pocket.
yep. Adrian, baby, let me tell you, when I saw the price tag for some of these medications, it said some of these the cost of rent,
Yeah.
the cost of a month's rent. Okay. And you're doing it for like 10 to 12 days. So you're
Mhm.
having to have, so like, you're having several shipments of meds sent to your house
Yeah.
during that time, which is just like wild. I said, for this little needle, this costs this much? What?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I said, just the cost of the medications alone. And then you're going to the doctors every other day for morning monitoring. So you're paying for that visit, you're paying for the blood work, you're paying for genetic testing, you're like anemic and have like issues with like my platelets and stuff. So now I'm also seeing a hematologist, more costs. I'm also big on holistic medicine. So I was going to acupuncture. So that was another cost. Luckily, through my insurance, acupuncture is covered, thank God.
Oh,
Um,
for everybody.
right, exactly. And acupuncture, I think, played a huge role
Yep.
in having a successful pregnancy.
I,
And I can see the difference in the eggs, in the number of eggs that was retrieved, and the quality of the eggs from my first retrieval between 2 and 3 when I was regularly doing acupuncture. So you also think about those things that it's like I went to therapy every week to get my mind right. So that was covered through my insurance. So it's like there are all these, like you just hear cha-ching, cha-ching, like you just hear the cash register just going and going. And that's on top of the cost for a retrieval because you're paying for the procedure, you're paying for the doctor, you're paying for the anesthesia. Like it's like
yeah.
it just gets so exhausting that you just get to a point where you're just are like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Is it truly worth it? And I'm doing this by myself. I'm doing this as a single person on one income. I remember my grandma always after my grandma retired, she would always be like, I am on a fixed income. I am that I get it now. I get it now. I am on a fixed income.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just one person. I still need to pay rent, buy groceries, pay for my car, pay for like there's still all these other and so you're just are like, what? Like, is it worth it? And so, of course, like it is, if you truly want to have a baby, yeah, it's worth it. And you're going to do any and everything you can to figure out how to make it work. But to take out a second mortgage, to
Mhm.
go into, I saw a statistic, it's like 70% of people undergoing fertility treatments go into debt to pay for it.
Well,
Wild.
and now you're walking into having a baby where you don't know what your birth and delivery situation is going to end up looking like ultimately. You can go into
Mhm.
it with the best laid plans and have none of those plans be what you expect. You have no idea what cost might be associated with that, depending on whether things go the way that you had hoped or not. And
Mhm.
now you have an extra little person, which requires things to diaper with. And some women try valiantly to breastfeed and just simply struggle and cannot.
Mhm.
Some women choose not to breastfeed. So you're walking into more expenses. And then at the time of this recording, you've got an administration that's like, oh, hey, yeah, go ahead and have babies. But there's no financial plan in place because most women end up having to take unpaid leave in
That
order to
part.
be able to take care of this little person. And oh, yeah, that's right. Your body's just done the biggest fucking thing it will ever do in its entire life, but you're not able to stay home and actually heal properly from it. Like, the costs, you're not joking, Cha-ching. It's like, oh my good grief.
Right.
It's not that I
And
don't want to have a baby, it's just cost prohibitive.
it just cost prohibitive. And I saw this like meme on Instagram or something because let me see if I can pull it up real quick because I want to quote it like word for word because it was fucking hilarious because it perfectly like encapsulates why some people are just like, no, not going to have kids because it's just too expensive. And I sent it to my friend Dominique, who she right now is like, nah, I'm not. The kids don't see it for me, not in the cards for me. And that's so I sent this to her, and she's like my best friend. We've been friends for like over 20 years. So we like joke with each other like all the time. So I sent her this meme. It said, I'm not ready to sacrifice my hair and shoe money for Pampers and milk at all. And she was like, yup, exactly. Like, but all jokes aside, it's like I'm incredibly grateful to work for a large employer that offers the scale of benefits that they do. And a lot of states now are mandating that if you're a company with X number of employees, you have to offer some sort of fertility coverage, which is great. But oftentimes, it's not the greatest coverage. I mean, something is better than nothing, but it could be better. But okay, what happens after you have the baby? Like you said, diapers, formula, clothes, daycare, childcare.
Oh, yeah.
I am incredibly blessed and grateful to work for the company that I do because I was able to have paid maternity leave. I had 2 weeks before my due date off. I had 6 weeks recovery time I had 6 weeks paid recovery time for having a vaginal birth. They offer you, I think it's 8 weeks if you have a C-section, and then the 12 weeks of bonding leave, all paid at 100%.
Wow.
Very blessed and lucky to have had that. And I'm also blessed and lucky to still pretty much be working from home. So I didn't put Isla in daycare until she was 9 months old. So that helped save some money. But now it's also looking at, okay, so I talked before about like the FSA, the healthcare FSA. Now it's looking at the dependent care FSA and having money taken out pre-tax for that to help cover childcare costs for daycare. And now, listen, I make okay money. A lot of times it pisses me off when I look at certain programs and stuff and they look at your salary and they see you make six figures. But it's like, yeah, but when you look at it after you pay the taxes and after like
Mhm.
taxes and everything, like I'm poor. Help me, I'm poor. Like,
Yeah.
I'm right back down to five figures. And the
Yeah.
cost of living, I live in New Jersey, expensive. So the cost of living, cost of childcare, cost of making a baby, cost of having the baby. And it's a lot. And again, that's why when I talk to people about this topic, I'm like, you have to be really smart about how you go about it. You have to be really strategic. You have to be, and I'm, again, a very type A, very logistically centered minded person, which is why I think I'm a great producer. Not to toot my own horn, but beep. But because my job is in planning, my job is in planning for every possible scenario and outcome and being able to pivot quickly. And so when it was time for me to go back into the process in 2023, it was like looking at the calendar because it's like, okay, well, my out of pocket max for the year is $3,000. I have this stuff going on the first half of the year. I did my second retrieval. It was like May 2023. So I'm constantly looking at, okay, where am I at in terms of my deductible? Where am I at in terms of my out of pocket max for the year? Oh, okay, well, by the time I go and do this retrieval number 3, I will have hit my out of pocket max for the year. So I'll be covered at 100%. Then it's when it comes time to kind of mapping out when to do the embryo transfer. It's like, okay, I do the transfer this time. Okay, well, I have this going on at the top half of 2024. So I'll probably be at this for my out of pocket max for the year. So by the time I go and have the baby, I'm probably only looking at paying this much, and then I'll be topped out, and then everything will be covered at 100%. So it's like you got to do this mental gymnastics and like
Yeah.
kind of mapping out and like really being able to take advantage. And kind of going back to my point about like making decent money, but still not really making enough. I applied for grants. Like I was amazed to see the number of grants that are available through different organizations and stuff to help with fertility coverage, to help pay for the costs. So like I felt like I was a senior in high school again, applying for financial aid.
Wow.
I was like, is this the FAFSA again?
Yeah.
And then when you're applying for these grants and stuff through these different organizations, you got to, that's a whole process in and of itself because you got to have all of your financials together. You're writing essays. You need to send them like tax documents. Like it's literally like you're applying for financial aid again in college. And so it was like I was applying for all these grants and I wasn't getting any of them. So then I was feeling defeated because I'm like, oh, like I could have really used this money to help, but God made a way, thank goodness. And he still is making a way. I'm still having to hustle a little bit to make it work. But to know that the price tag could have been so much higher, Isla wouldn't be here. There's no way. I'd be like, I can't do it. I'm still out here dodging Sally Mae for my student loans. Okay. I'm still out here ducking and dodging Sally Mae. I couldn't imagine having to take out another set of loans to have a baby that may or may not happen because, again, it's the odds game.
Yep.
And yes, I'm sure if I wanted a baby bad enough, I'd figure out a way to make it work. But it's like, not everyone is, I guess, maybe that scrappy or that it's exhausting, it's tiring. And then you're just are like, what's the quality of our life going to be with all of this debt hanging over our head? And so it breaks my heart to know that people have to make that decision because, again, in thinking about the cost to make the baby, but then there's all the other costs after that. And so someone asked me recently what I felt about Donald Trump, President Trump's executive order back in February regarding the cost of IVF. And I'm like, I mean, it's great. I'm not going to sit here and give him too much credit because where's the plan? Like you said, like, oh, yeah, they have to figure out a way to make it more affordable and more accessible. Okay, but where's the plan?
Yeah.
You've drafted this executive order, but where's the plan?
Yeah.
Who is supposed to help figure this out? Like, what's the time? So, does it give me hope? Yeah, I guess.
I was going to say that hesitation is where I'm at also, because not only is there not a plan for that executive order, but there's no plan to make infrastructure changes that can actually, we're the only, this pisses me off, because we are the only industrialized country that does not have any plan for paid maternity leave. Like none.
Yeah.
And yet it's all about plans and the lack of plans and the lack of executing plans. Like you can give lip service to a whole bunch of things. There's a couple of people that I'm really like hustling to try to get on this show to be able to talk about this very topic in detail because it's a big one. Like we have rules around not separating puppies from their mothers before 8 weeks, but the average woman goes back to work 2 weeks after she gives birth, and it doesn't matter which way she gave birth. Like, whether it was vaginal or surgical. It's like, what? Like,
Right.
we don't even allow for that kind of bonding between mother and child or recovery time for mother's body. Again, doing the biggest task
Mhm.
ever do. You've taken 9 months of your body to physically build another life, but we need you back at the office in 2 weeks. Like you went on
Right.
fucking vacation or something. And it's
Right.
like, what?
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
the plan, man?
Where's the plan? And it's like, and oh, we'll give you $5,000. What that $5,000 doing? I mean, listen, every little bit helps, but it's going to take a lot more than giving somebody $5,000 to entice them to have a child. Because how many months of childcare is that covering?
Well, and you probably have to pay taxes on that anyway.
That part.
It'll be part of your taxable income. So, how much of that are you actually going to see anyway? And it won't
You
take you
know,
through a whole year of childcare. I mean,
no,
childcare is astronomically high. And I'm grateful that I am in a position where I do work for myself so that I can juggle my son and my work and try to focus the majority of what I do work wise once my husband gets home. And I am fortunate that I have teenagers in my house, so they also are an extra set of eyes for me. I knew I didn't want to send him to daycare, and the juggle is really hard some days, but we're making it work. But the
right.
first time I had to go back to work, I was the breadwinner. I didn't have any choice. I had to work, and I didn't have paid leave. I had an
Yeah.
incredible boss at the time. I am still so grateful that I got to work for this human. But when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I was still fairly young. I didn't know what I had available to me for options. And he let me save all of my vacation and sick time. When I had to go to appointments, I tried to time as many of them as I possibly could outside of the workday because I knew that he was like throwing me a huge bone. But he didn't make me take any of it, and he let me roll all of it over into the next year. So I ended up
That's
having,
amazing.
yeah, I ended up having like 7 weeks of paid leave with my daughter. That was essentially all of my sick and vacation time that I had accrued from the time I had started working at that particular employer until I gave birth to her the fall of the next year. So I was really blessed that I had that available. Well, as a self-employed person, I didn't have that this time.
Yeah.
And best laid plans, like I tried to put away as much as I possibly could, but I had to plan for being able to keep my practice open while I was out. And my
Hmm.
best laid plans didn't end up working out. And I ended up
Right.
having to really constrict afterwards. But not everybody has that ability. And so if you're
Right.
going into this huge amount of debt before the baby ever even comes into the world, and now you're trying to figure out how to pay your bills while you're on leave. And like those first few weeks, for anybody who's listening who has never had a baby, those first few weeks after you give birth to a baby, your body is like the emptiest tank you could possibly imagine. Your body is weak. Just getting up and going to the bathroom is a Herculean effort, let alone all the times that you get up to nurse or feed the baby, change the baby, do all these things during the night. Like you are exhausted.
Mhm.
And then being forced back into work, like there's no wonder that people are hitting perimenopause and their symptoms are off the friggin' chart because postpartum is one of your three golden opportunities to hit a reset button on your health. When your period first starts, anytime you're in postpartum and menopause, those are the three times that your body gives you this extra gift of being able to heal in some really beautiful, literally life altering kinds of ways. And we just in Western culture do not honor the sanctity of that postpartum period. And then you have to worry about debt and all these bills on top of it all.
And it's just a mental drain that you don't need, that you shouldn't have. And I'm incredibly lucky that I'm a year into parenthood and I'm able to pay my rent every month. I'm able to buy diapers, and now she eating solid food. So my grocery bill is sky high now because this little girl can eat. Okay. She was like, I'm not baby food. What the hell is that? Like, no, I want to eat what you eating, mommy. Like, so
Yeah.
she's eating the same thing that I'm eating. And I think to myself, can I sustain this? And the thing is, like, I mean, I have no choice, but it makes you think again about long term because I've had companies reach out to me with opportunities for jobs and stuff. And it's like, it's very tempting, but what that benefit package looking like?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's something that employers need to understand. It's that if you want to attract and retain employees and great talent, look at your benefits package. Look at that fertility benefit because there are a lot of people who are probably in need of it that you just don't know about it. And they just haven't maybe been brave enough to open up to HR and be like, hey, I think this is something that we should take a look at. And so I sit and I think about opportunities in the future. And it's like, if that benefits package ain't looking like what I currently have or better,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's worth it. And so then that becomes a whole new thing because it's like when we're looking at the state of the job market and the economy, at the end of the day, it's going to be these quote unquote little things like benefits and stuff. And companies aren't offering pensions. And now we're in this 401k culture and we're looking at the stock market right now. And so it's like, you're looking at the cost of rent. You're looking at the cost of buying a home. You're looking at the interest rates and stuff. And having a child is just as much of an economic issue as unemployment. Like, and so all of these things come together and kind of create this like perfect storm.
Yep.
And so it's like, if you want people to have more children, well, we have to look at the economy and look at what are we doing to help facilitate that? What are we doing to help ease some of the burdens on families? And we're looking now at a generation of people who are having children later in life, who are delaying parenthood and who are actively becoming single parents by choice. So what protections are there for them? Because like I said earlier in our conversation, what if my fallopian tubes were working at 100% and I decided that I wanted to become a mom through IVF? Like, would I be denied by insurance? It's like, well, no, you're working perfectly fine. So go find a dude and have a baby the traditional way.
Yeah.
So when we are talking about access, we also have to look at all of these nuances because it's not just male, female, married partnerships that are looking to build families. So we have to make sure that same level of access is available to everyone who was looking to build their family. This is the time that we're living in now, and 1 in 6 people are dealing with infertility.
Yep.
So there's increased need. We're seeing now there's increased need, increased demand for fertility testing and treatments. We need to make that accessible to all, not just heterosexual couples. So it's something that just like sparks something in me. I don't know if you can kind of tell. It's like it just riles me up. But because it's like, had I not had coverage, what would my life be like? Like, I can't imagine my life without Isla.
Yeah.
And it's like to let something like cost keep me from that
Yep.
would have just been devastating. And for so many people, that's the reality. That's the decision that they're having to make. And it shouldn't be that way.
I agree. I agree. I feel like that was a really good parting thought. Do you have any other words of wisdom that you would like to share before we close?
I would just say it's so important if you are working for an employer to look at your benefits package, open up the conversations with your HR teams. If your company is not offering fertility benefits. Also, I work in media, so it's a lot of freelancers. A lot of people living that freelance life and are financing their benefits themselves. So we need to look at how these benefits packages are affecting freelancers and like temp employees and their access to family building benefits. Again, it's all about starting the conversation and just bringing awareness to it. So take advantage. If having a family is something that you truly want, take advantage of the benefits that's available to you, but also fight for the benefits that aren't available, because your voice can have a huge impact, because you can just get a small collective of people at your company together and present to your HR team and say, like, this is important, and show them the value in it. And that can make all the difference. And then to our like elected officials, like, make a plan. An executive order is not enough. We need a solid plan in how we can make this affordable and accessible to everyone. And the fact that only about 19 states offer some sort of fertility coverage, have mandated some sort of fertility coverage, is wild to me. Should not be that way. So we're going to be hitting the midterm elections here pretty soon before we know it. So it's like, go out, make your voice heard. And we're also going to be looking at open enrollment coming up soon at your company. So go ahead, look at what's offered, what's not. Might be worth it to spend a little bit of extra money from your paycheck and pay a little bit of a higher premium, because it can end up saving you money in the long run. So just be really smart, be really strategic in how you use your benefits. So I think that's what I would say. I feel like I just kind of rambled, but like this topic just gets me like so passionate, because it's just, it's like, Oh, no.
I'm passionate about it too, having been on both the needing to see and use benefits side of it, as well as seeing my clients come through needing to use benefits, having limitations to their benefits. When there was a whole bunch of talk around the last election, around there potentially not being IVF benefits available to people, and how that was sending some families scrambling about, am I going to be able to have more babies in my family? So siblings for kids that already existed,
Mm,
or I want to be able to have a baby before this window closes. All of those kinds of things. Like, people make decisions to have families from their heart
yeah.
because it's never a good time financially. Like, there's always something, whether you're a homeowner or you rent, like, just look at the hurricane in your car. Like, there's always something, right? Our well pump decided that it was going to die the second week after my son was born. And I was like, cool, of course it did. Of course, I need to wash things and I have no water until the guy can come because it was a Monday holiday. It was amazing. So there's always something, right? And we need to advocate for what it is that we need collectively. The ability to be able to have a family should be one that you should be able to make with your heart because it is
Mm,
aligned for you and it is aligned for your family. And unfortunately, far too many of us are forced to have to make that decision from our head. And I think that it does limit people who do want to have babies and just honestly think that they can't afford them.
yeah.
Because a lot of the people that this current rhetoric is being directed at are people who are weaving and dodging Sally Mae, and they've had exorbitant college debt because of the way that loans were given during the time they
Mhm.
were going through school. And so there are more people that aren't even able to achieve their dream of home ownership, let alone being able to have a baby. So these are some really big topics, some really serious things that really change the lives of a lot of people. So I'm so, so grateful that you came on the show and shared your voice around this really important topic. And Lakia has some really cool things in the works too, to be able to support people. So Lakia will probably come back and join us in the future when she wants to debut her new offering. So be sure to watch for that. But thank you again so much for sharing your wisdom, your time, and your story with our show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you again for just giving us a platform to be able to talk about these things, because these are conversations that are so important, so necessary. So thank you.
All right. And until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.